you do clipper over comb, okay? If I do a number 2, and let's say that it leaves the hair about this long, right? And this number 2. If I have a comb, this comb is a little thinner than a lot of other combs out there. There are certain combs that this one would be good to use with like a number 1.5. Okay, because a 1.5, if you measure it, that's about 3/16, and the back of this comb is pretty close to 3/16. You don't have to know that much about measuring. I'm just telling you that that is the actual number. But it doesn't really matter if you're tipping it out. You can make this to be whatever distance you want. So if 3/16 means that it is flat up against the head, that's 3/16. I can take this on the top of somebody's head with no guard on my clipper, and I can make a number 1.5 with this right here. What's going on with some of you guys when you do your clipper over comb, you're cutting when the comb is like this. There's no reason to ever do that. The only hair that ever gets cut in clipper over comb is that which is in the bottom of the comb. Because this is what holds it out. This is what directs it out, so like 90 degrees, so that you can actually cut it. If you're cutting stuff in the comb up here, you're making a mistake. Because this stuff up in the comb right here is not being directed straight out from the head. So whether you cut it or not, it's inconsequential because you're not going to be able to accurately figure out what that length is. What if the hair is curled? What if the hair is straight? All that kind of stuff will factor into it. Yes, some of it will be accurate, but a lot of it won't be. So the only time that you put this clipper on the head, the only time that you put this clipper on the comb, it should be down here, right at the teeth, right where it's holding that hair out. And again, this is not a one-size-fits-all. This is not something you want to try to accomplish too much with. You want to roll the comb out towards you, and then cut, and then lift. Roll the comb out towards you, cut and lift. Slide it in there like this, that's okay, but as soon as you begin cutting, you begin rolling and lifting. You will get this. It won't feel good at first. It won't feel like you know what you're doing at first. I remember doing the motion when somebody was explaining it to me. They were just telling me, do the motions, just do what I'm telling you, and eventually a light bulb will go off, and you'll say, oh God, I totally get it. And then the other part of it is you can use your finger to help make distances. Okay, so that if my distance that I wanted to use, let's say that the hair was this long, it was growing out of the back of the head this long. Okay, whatever distance that I established, I could hold it with my finger, and when I come into my comb with my clipper, still rolling it out, lifting it out, and I'm using my finger to pivot. All right, so what I need you guys to concentrate on today, because today we're going to work on some clipper over comb. Hopefully we have some mannequins that are short enough where we can use that, because I know that all of you guys understand how to fade. I know that you know how these guards work. And as long as you have those guards, you're not going to have an issue. The issue is going to be getting it from a number 2 into scissor length, right? That's where it's difficult. Because otherwise, how else would you accomplish it? If I had a number 2 to here and long hair on top, and I wanted to blend that in, how would you guys accomplish it right now if you didn't use clipper over comb?
Scissors.
What if you didn't know scissor over comb?
I would just use a number 4, go all the way up, straight up like this, and whatever hairs that's not blended in on the side, I just go like this.
Right. So you'll accomplish it with some wrist flipping. Because if you use a number 4, I mean, we're going from a 2, so you could either run a 2, a 3, a 4, maybe even a 5. But there really is no good use for a clipper blade that's over a number 3. I would even say 2, but when it comes from 0 to a number 3, there's almost no need at all for any higher clipper guards than that, because you could accomplish it all with the comb very easy. Now, I'm not saying that if somebody wanted a 5 on top or a 4 on top, that's different. Obviously, there's a use for them in that application. But when it comes to fading, there's really no reason to even use anything beyond a number 3. Because as soon as you get to a number 3, you could be using clipper over comb. And guess how long it takes me to blend out a number 2 to scissors on top with clipper over comb? I think I've timed it before, and it's like somewhere around 1 minute and 30 seconds. How long do you think it's going to take you if you go at it with a number 4 and a 5 and a scissor and some scissor over comb on top of that afterwards? You know, we're looking at 10, maybe 10 more minutes added to a haircut that is already a pain because it takes already 25 minutes. So if you're lucky, you guys being in school are getting these done in 35 minutes. 35 minutes is not good enough to make money. $15 a haircut, maybe you get 20, maybe you pump out what, 2 in an hour, a little less than 2 in an hour at 35 minutes, so that puts you at just a little less than 2 haircuts per hour. And maybe if you had a very busy day, you could cut 15 to 20 people. 15 people is $300. 20 people is 4. So do you want to make $400 a day? When you have the clients coming in the door and you have all the skills that you need, you should easily be able to turn out 30 people in a day. If you had the amount of people coming in right now, could you turn out 30 people in a day with the current skill set that you have? In an 8-hour shift, 30 people. That's what I'm saying. So that's where we gotta go. And number 2 is our goal. Okay, what if I shaved this whole head? If I shaved this whole head, Lauren, what could I take into a number 2 without making a line? Let's say that the entire head was shaved down to a number 2 right now. What could I take into this line and not make a line?
Too close.
That isn't too close. So let's say that I took, if this is a too close right now, I'll just put that. I'm saying that
Okay,
my goal is to get to a too close on top.
okay.
If you can do this, and you understand how to do clipper over comb, I think that you can do pretty much every single haircut in the business with varying degrees of differences, such as blowouts. Yes, you're still doing the process, but it's at a lower length. But if you're at a number 2 on top, what could I take into a number 2 without making a mistake? Without making any lines?
Too open.
That wouldn't cut anything. Everything is too close. What's longer?
Okay.
Too open or too close?
1.5.
1 1/2, what?
Open.
Thank you. 1.5 open. Taking a 1.5 open into a 2 close is not going to create any lines of demarcation. There's going to be no difference. This line is going to be entirely wiped out, and it's just going to be a clean, smooth transition in between the 2. Okay? From an open,
1 open, 1 close.
1.5 closed. 1.5 closed is going to remove this line, and as long as I stay in between these areas, I now have a 1.5 at the bottom into a 2, and there's no lines. Okay? The next one.
One open.
Nice. 1 open. Obviously 1 closed. The next one.
0.5 open.
0.5 open. And 0.5 closed. Okay, so right now, if you followed this chart and you worked your way down, obviously it's going to take you a lot of time to do it this way, but you could do it this way. So right now, I feel like anybody in this room, if they were just watching this, or they were just starting out, or they're still new, they would be able to do a fade from a 1/2 to a 2. Does everybody agree that if they were just to do it the most long possible way, shave the entire head every single time, okay? So from here, what's the next one down, Lauren?
0 open.
We're gonna call that an open taper.
Oh, yeah.
So just an open taper with no guard on your clipper, open taper. Okay? And this is gonna be a closed taper. What comes under that? There's something in between.
The trimmers.
Okay, yeah, the trimmers. We'll put trimmer
Or that other little contraption.
or a 5-0. Okay, so if we do this, we could do a skin fade from the top to the bottom using every step here. Now, there's a little problem with this, is if I give you if I just give you the assignment and I say you go out and do what I just said here, and just do it for practice, you could probably do it. But there's gonna be a little issue here. Your equipment. Okay, in order to do this from skin, what do you need for skin? You need an electric shaver, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have an electric shaver, you can cross that off the list, okay? Your trimmer. Or your trimmer has to be as close as it can possibly be, because we need to get from skin to the trimmer, so we need those to work together. There's no real overlap point between those two. That's gonna be a process where you're using your skin machine and you reduce tension as you reach this line. And as you reach this line, you do not wanna run this line straight into this. You wanna have some transition, so we have to reduce tension, or we come down with the machine once we get close to the line. Because there is no overlap point here. This has to be smooth before you move on. This section here, from here to here, this is the most difficult part of this haircut. And if you can get past it, it's gonna get easier. Why does it get easier up here? Does anybody know why it gets easier?
There's more hair.
It gets easier up here
But it's less level work.
for a reason that you probably never guess. Overlap. Your guards will overlap at this length. You will not have to fight with it. The guards don't always overlap down here. Your closed taper is not always good enough to get your trimmer line out. Your open taper and your closed taper will overlap with each other. But you don't have always the most perfect system in place for these three. So that's why your equipment is so important. You have to have that trimmer set just right. You have to have a clipper that can cut lower than 3 zeros. Because most clippers come standard set by the factory to cut at about 3 zeros. Okay? And if we did a 5-0 line and 3 zeros, there could be a small amount of demarcation there, and there could be nothing that you might be able to do with it. Now, obviously, we have a bunch of techniques and tricks and things to do and to use, but really, there might be a little issue here if your equipment is not set up correctly. But as soon as you get, I would even extend this further down here. As soon as you get to about right here, this is when a lot of your overlapping begins. And if you don't believe there's overlap, do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor one day, when you're doing a fade, it's not gonna take you any extra time, and it's probably gonna maybe even save you time in some cases. Skip this step altogether. Skip this step altogether, and you'd be surprised how good your fade will still turn out. And when you come back to revisit this step and fix it and make it perfect, there's gonna be a very small amount in most cases to clean up. Anybody understand why this is? The half guard did not always exist. In fact, probably as little as 7 years ago or 8 years ago, it wasn't even an option. We didn't even have one. So we were coming from open taper to a 1 closed. That was the closest that we could get to the open taper. Now that we have this half guard, what's happened is a lot of overlapping has happened. Now a half open and a 1 closed are pretty darn close. And in some cases, they're right on the money depending on what your clipper is with your setup. Now, if we didn't have that, we could just skip that. So anyways, I hope you guys pick something up from all this crap. Now I'm gonna explain to you the way I do it and why I do it the way I do it. And obviously you're free to do it any way that you please in the future. But the only way that you're gonna be able to knock down 30 haircuts a day is to find a way to save time. It does not make sense to shave the whole head with a 2, then shave the whole head with a 1.5 open, then shave the whole head with a 1 closed. This is just not even feasible. If you wanna keep this guy here till his next birthday, then do it. But if not, we need to find a place to save time. So if somebody comes in and they want a 2 on top and they want skin at the bottom, what's your first question?
How high is the fade?
Good answer. Okay, how high do you want it? Do you want it low? Do you want it about mid? Or do you want a high fade? People who want high fades usually know they want high fades because they're military or they're police or whatever, and they say like, I like it as high as you can get it. Now, if the client seems on the fence about it, he doesn't know, probably you can do a mid fade to give yourself some space for a nice smooth transition. And if you tell him that that's what you're doing, he'll go for that. If you say, well, if you give me a little bit of room to give you that really smooth transition, we do like a mid fade that gives me a little bit of room so that I can run through all the process and make it a really smooth blend. Who wouldn't go for that? What client would say, I don't want a good blend? That's stupid. So if you tell them that, that's great. And the people who want low fades, they know they want low fades because they've had high fades a bunch of times or fades that were higher than they asked for many times. So anyways, this client wants a 2 on top and we've decided that he wants a mid fade, whatever. That's great. We know exactly what to do. So what's the first step, Lauren?
I don't know.
He wants a 2 on top, skin on the sides. And we need to get it there. The easiest step. Let's do the easiest step.
1.5 close. I mean open.
No, we don't want to go there yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
90 like.
We don't want to go there yet. All right, let's just get rid of all
We
this.
can start from the bottom.
You can.
We can. I wouldn't say that you were wrong, but
Skin.
let's just do this. Let's just do this first. Let's do the 2 first, okay? Let's get rid of all the bulk on top. No one can make a mistake just shaving someone's top of their head with a number 2. So at this point, everybody in this room can do this with ease. Anybody here can shave somebody's head with a number 2. If the guard don't fall off, that's the only thing that can happen to mess this up. The distance is there. So we take the number 2, and all we concentrate on, we leave the rest of this hair long. What if this hair is this long? Great. We leave it long, and we concentrate on the area that's above the parietal ridge. So about right here, that's what we concentrate on. So that the entire top is cut to a 2. Okay?
Good morning.
Good morning. So the next step that we need to do, the hair is really long right now. Can't see what we're doing, right? If the hair is very long and we can't see what we're doing, we need to make it so that when we put the skin line in, that it's accurate on both sides, right? So if I tried to put the skin line in at this long length, what would happen?
Here's up like that, I'm not gonna be able to see.
I would probably have to do it again, right? I would probably go in and do it, and then after I did another step, I would probably have to do it again. So when the hair is long, it's a little bit more work. So the first thing we're gonna do when the hair is long, we're gonna go up to where do I wanna put the skin fade? We decided that he wants about a mid skin fade, right? That's what he wants. We decided that. Now, that means that in order for me to put the line in this area, I need to knock this down. So I'll knock it down, and I'm talking about me personally. I will knock it down with a 1.5, just to get that totally out of my way. So a 2 close, knock it down with a 1.5 open. Just this whole area has now become a 1.5 open, and now I can see what I'm doing. And I'm talking about only from where I ended my 2 to where I want to put my skin line. This hair down here can still be long. Because we're saving time, remember? We're trying to save time. Everybody follow me so far? Do you understand what I'm saying? I remove the bulk so that all this hair is nice and even, and now when I go in to put my skin line in, I'm not going to have an issue. Okay, so I put my skin line in with what, maybe? What do I put my skin line in with?
Right now.
His hair is long right now. This is real long.
You're close to that.
Okay, so the area that I want to cut, that's already down to a number 1. I'll put my skin line in with the trimmer if you don't have a 5-0. If you have a 5-0, it'll save you time. Use your 5-0. But I'll put it in with the trimmer. Does anybody here have a 5-0 by any chance? None of you?
Detachable?
Yeah. Just pondering. All right.
Hey, is a
well,
balding clipper 5-0?
yeah.
Well, then,
Yeah, it is.
I'll
It's also kind of dangerous because the damn thing cuts people and you can run into a lot of issues with it. Some of them are good, some of them pull hair, and a lot of them cut people. So, I mean, it's not my favorite machine, but no, it works. And it will do the job. All right, so now we've decided all we have now is we have a trimmer, a 1.5, and a 2. Okay, what is our next step, Nate? And I know you won't know this, or Lauren.
Skin.
You do know this. Okay, so it's skin, with what?
I don't know with what.
The electric shaver.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the little box that you see all the barbers working with. It's the electric shaver. So we're gonna go against the grain. So our line here, we cannot go into this line. In fact, we wanna save ourselves about a ½ inch, okay? So we can ball them completely going up against the grain. And anybody here can do this right now, right? There's nothing that hasn't, there's nothing that I've explained here that's too difficult to understand yet. Okay, once we get to this line, we want to start coming down with it. Why is that? What is down?
It cuts less.
Why does it cut less?
Pressure on it.
The direction that the hair is going.
With the grain. You're cutting with the grain. That's why it cuts less. So if I take an electric shaver and I move it down the head, we're cutting with the grain, it's going to take significantly less hair. Right? Does everybody understand against the grain and with the grain? Okay, so when we shaved with the trimmer line, we went what direction?
Against.
We went against the grain, okay? And when we did the number 2 on top, we were also
That's the grain.
against the grain. Right? So in most cases, we're going to be working against the grain. We're going to use with the grain to help us only sometimes. So we're going to use that to our advantage, and we're going to ball them all the way out until we get to about right here, right? And then we're going to start moving down with the grain so that when we're done, and we have a nice smooth transition from skin into this line so that we don't have any other issues. We have a nice smooth transition from skin to this line. Next step, okay? Now I'm going off on just my own technique, the way that I always do it. And I don't expect you guys to know exactly how I always do it, but this is just step next how I always do it. Open taper. Open taper, okay? And once I create the open taper line, I still have this line that I made with my trimmer, right? So now we have 2 lines. Every time I do that, I take out the line below it. I make a new line, take out the line below it. Make a new line, take out the line below it, until I reach where I'm going, which in this case is going to be a 1.5 close, because I already did the 1.5 to remove the bulk. So with the open taper, what's my next step then? If I'm doing what I just said.
Close.
That's right. I'm going to begin closing this, but not all the way. So I'm going to take a closed taper. I'm going to move into this with my lever closed about 3/4. And then that's when I work in this area right here. Then I'm going to close it about halfway. And then I'm going to have it closed all the way in between here to here. This is the most difficult part. If you get past this, the rest of it's going to be easy. Does everybody understand what I'm saying here? So what's going to happen is this line is going to be gone. And the line that exists still is the one that I made with the open taper. That's what this line is. Okay? Now, I need to get it from open taper to 1.5. I'm going to move my 1.5 up. Open. 1.5 closed. We're working with 2 lines again. We're working with the line that I initially put in with my open taper, and now I have my half open. I'll do the exact same thing again. When I take my half, I begin to close it about 3/4 here, about 1/2 here, and about all the way from here down. That's just my lever. It's about 3/4, about 1/2, about all the way closed. But as soon as I close it, one thing that I did forget to mention, what do I do as soon as I begin to close my lever?
Like the way you're cutting?
Yeah, as soon as I begin,
Scooping?
soon as I begin to close my lever, I keep the clipper blade on an angle. So if that's my clipper blade, I keep it on an angle, or I only touch one corner of the blade down. As soon as I begin to close it at any level, it doesn't matter what level I'm at, but especially in between the trimmer to the open taper phase, you've got to keep that on an angle, because it's so easy to put it down flat, cut another line, and then you're overworking yourself, and you're going back in there and you're chasing those shadows, and your haircut becomes a cleanup haircut. And if you're spending more time cleaning up your haircut, the reason is you're not being thorough in the process. The next step. Okay, so right now, I have a half open. That's what this line is. This line is a half open. That's what this is right here. Okay, so I need to get it to a 1.5 closed. Now, what can I take into a 1.5 closed without making a line? A 1 open. So just a 1 open, I can literally run the 1 open all the way to here. Right? And then once I have that 1 open, I can begin closing the one closed in 3/4, 1/2, and fully closed at these levels. About there, about there, about there. And guess what? If you keep it on an angle and you work your steps down, you are going to be done with this haircut. The little bit of cleanup that's going to come, if you've done a good job, you're not going to have much cleanup, okay? And in some situations, you'll have more cleanup than others because some people, their head shapes are different and they present different challenges. Okay, so in the back of somebody's head, in this area, okay, if a person is skinny, a lot of times there's a little bit of a hollow here. There's kind of a dip that comes in here. Some people have a dip right after the parietal ridge. It starts to dip out and then it comes back in. Those things are going to cast shadows. Those things are going to take different steps to make it look as smooth as it could possibly look. But if you know your theory and you know what you're doing, you're going to be able to do this haircut without any problems if you follow the exact same steps that I just laid out for you.
Okay, if you guys hung around this long, it's obvious that you're pretty dedicated to your craft and you're really trying to learn. And I really appreciate you for sticking around so long. This video was a lot of work. I really want to make this easy for you. And if there's something I'm not explaining good, please let me know. But until I see you in my next video, thank you very much for watching. And I'm out of here, man.